The saloon doors complained on their hinges as they swung inward, a long, low creak that made every man inside pause with his glass halfway to his mouth. Dust from the street rolled in after the stranger, drifting through the lamplight like a pale ghost still trying to catch him. His boots met the warped floorboards with a slow, heavy rhythm, each step landing like dirt on a coffin lid. Cole Reaper Maddox didn't need an introduction, his silhouette did the talking. Tall, raw-boned, wrapped in a black trail coat that had tasted more blood than rainwater. A pale scar carved its way down his left cheek, jagged as lightning over canyon rock. His eyes were the color of steel left out in winter, hard, cold, unblinking. Men had gone to their graves for nothing more than holding that gaze a second too long. The piano stumbled into silence. Cards hovered midair in a dealer's shaking hands. Even the flies circling the liquor turned lazy, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Cole moved at an unhurried pace, spurs whispering with each step, soft metal chimes in the quiet. He didn't glance at the poker tables, didn't bother with the shadows in the corners. His stare stayed fixed on the bar ahead. Behind it stood a young woman, maybe 25, auburn hair tied back to keep it out of the smoke, green eyes dulled by too many late nights and too many mean men. Her name was Lily. For 3 long years she'd stood behind that counter, filling glasses for cowhands and drifters who never saw more of her than the bottle in her hand. But Cole saw. He noticed the dark, ugly bruise blooming under her left eye, just peeking past the edge of her hair. The cut on her lip she tried to hide by angling her face away. The sleeve that slid up her forearm just enough to show finger-shaped marks circling her wrist, new, cruel, and deep. She set a glass down in front of him with a hand that wouldn't quite stop shaking and murmured, "What can I get you, mister?" Cole didn't answer, not right away. He studied those bruises instead, his jaw clenched, grinding a wordless promise. His right hand drifted, slow and certain, toward the Colt .45 resting on his hip. And in that quiet stretch of seconds, every outlaw, drunk, and coward in that room understood the same thing. Somebody was about to pay for something. Before we ride any farther into this story, partner, saddle up with us. Hit subscribe to Outlaw Whisper Films, tap that like button, and tell us down in the comments which country you're listening from. Now tip your hat, pour yourself a drink, and stay with us till the last bullet falls, because what's coming next might just knock the wind out of you. The year was 1874, and the town of Blackwater had long ago traded away its conscience for coin. The saloon went by the name The Rusty Nail, a fitting title for a place where hopes didn't break clean, they just rotted slowly. The air hung thick with the sour bite of cheap whiskey, old smoke, and mistakes nobody wanted to remember. It was the kind of joint where a man could lose his money, his pride, and on a bad night his heartbeat, all before sunrise. Cole Maddox hadn't come for cards or company or even the whiskey. He'd ridden into Blackwater alone, as he always did, his black stallion tied out front under the crooked shade of a sagging awning. He hadn't followed a poster or a rumor. He followed something buried deep inside him, a feeling he thought had died a long time ago that told him to ride here and not keep going. Behind the bar, Lily dragged an old rag back and forth over the scarred wood. The cloth was gray and worn, same as her thoughts. Her hands moved on habit. Her mind drifted somewhere else, someplace with softer voices and kinder hands that had never existed for her except in dreams. "Whiskey," Cole said, his voice low, rough as wagon wheels on gravel. She poured without lifting her gaze, set the glass down, careful and quiet, eyes fixed on the counter. But Cole wasn't looking at the drink, he was watching her. The shadowed bruise beneath the eye. The split lip. The tiny flinch in her shoulders each time the saloon doors slammed and another drunk stumbled in behind him. "Who did that to you?" Cole asked, his tone barely above a whisper. Lily went stiff, her breath caught halfway. She darted a glance around the room, then shook her head. "Ain't nobody, mister, I'm just clumsy is all." Cole's eyes narrowed. He'd made a career out of reading people before they could finish their lies. Her mouth trembled, tears gathered, but she pinned them back with sheer will. "Please," she breathed, "don't stir up trouble, it'll only make things worse." Cole leaned in, close enough that his words belonged only to her. His voice slid out soft but sharp enough to cut. "Darlin', trouble's already sitting at this bar. From the rear of the room, a laugh broke out, too loud, too sure of itself. The laugh belonged to Garrett Big Dog McGraw, a man who owned half of Blackwater and acted like he owned the rest. The rusty nail was his, the general store was his, the sheriff's backbone was his too, bought years ago and paid up regular. He lounged at his usual table, boots thrown up, cigar stuck between his teeth, looking like a king who'd built his throne out of filth and fear. 3 men flanked him. Hank broad as a barn door, nose bent from too many fights. Darryl wiry, nervous, always twitching like he'd swallowed a rattlesnake. Mick quiet, eyes flat, gun hand never far from the grip of his pistol. Garrett was the one who'd put those marks on Lily. It wasn't the first time, it wouldn't have been the last unless someone drew a line he couldn't step over. He had clocked Cole the second the stranger entered, everyone had, but Garrett didn't look away, didn't shrink back, his grin widened. "Well now," he drawled, loud enough for every ear in the place. "If it ain't Cole Maddox, the Reaper himself, heard tell you were dead." "You heard wrong," Cole answered, still facing the bar. "And what brings a legend like you to my little town, Reaper?" "Your town?" Cole finally turned his head, calm as a man checking the weather. "Funny, didn't see your name painted on the welcome sign." Garrett's smile thinned, his men stirred, hands drifting closer to leather and iron. "You got business here, Reaper?" Garrett asked. "Maybe." "Then say your piece." Cole lifted the whiskey, took an easy sip, then set the glass down like he had all day. "I'm curious about something." Garrett cocked his head. "Yeah, what's that?" "How a man like you stomps around feelin' big after layin' hands on a woman." Silence fell so fast you could have heard a card drop. Garrett's smirk came back, but this time it had teeth. "That right," he said, "and what's that to you?" Cole turned fully then, his duster shifted aside and the Colt on his hip caught the lamplight. "Everything." Garrett let out a harsh, belly-deep laugh. "Boys." Seems the Reaper grown himself a tender heart. But Hank, Darryl, and Mick didn't laugh. They'd heard songs told about Cole Maddox in more than one town. Those songs rarely ended with the other man still breathing. "Walk away, Maddox," Garrett said, his voice cooling, all humor gone. "This ain't your concern." Cole stood his ground, didn't blink. "It is now." A muscle jumped in Garrett's jaw. He was not a man used to being told no, not in his saloon, not in his town. He pushed himself to his feet, chairs scraped back, the sound like nails dragging across a coffin lid. "You don't have any idea what you're stirring up," Garrett warned. "I know enough," Cole replied, his eyes slid briefly toward Lily. "That girl there." Garrett jerked his chin toward her, face hard. Lily had gone pale as fresh-limed bones. "She's mine," Garrett said, "bought, paid for and kept right where I want her." Cole's fingers twitched near his gun belt. "Out here nobody owns anybody." Garrett barked a humorless laugh. "You're wrong, Reaper. Out here everybody belongs to someone, and she," he jabbed a finger toward Lily, "belongs to me." Tears finally broke loose, streaking down Lily's cheeks. "Please," she whispered to Cole, voice shaking, "just go, he'll kill you." Cole never took his gaze off Garrett. "Let him try." Garrett's men rose as one. The rusty nail seemed to sigh as every soul inside drew breath and held it. Garrett's lips curled into a slow, vicious smile. "Tell you what, Reaper, you want the girl, fine, but you'll have to earn her." Cole's eyes narrowed. "I'm listening." "Tomorrow," Garrett said, "high noon, Main Street, you and me, we settle this the old way." "A duel," Cole said. Garrett nodded once. Cole answered with a single, steady nod of his own. "Done." Garrett's grin grew cruel. "Good, and when I punch a hole through your chest, maybe I'll let her stand there and watch." Cole turned and started toward the doors. Just before he stepped out, he paused and glanced back over his shoulder. "One more thing." Garrett lifted his chin. "Yeah. If you lay a hand on her before noon tomorrow, I won't bother waiting on the clock." Then Cole Maddox stepped through the swinging doors into the fatting evening, leaving behind a room full of men who suddenly remembered why his name traveled ahead of him like a storm. Lily closed the saloon up late, fingers unsteady as she slid the final bolt into place. Outside, Blackwater lay quiet, streets emptied of people, filled instead with wind weaving between buildings and a distant dog barking at nothing. Relief should have come with the silence. Instead, dread curled tight inside her. He's going to die because of me, she thought. She climbed the narrow stairway to the small room above the saloon, little more than a bed, a cracked mirror, and a window that looked out over the same dusty street that had never once brought her mercy. Sitting on the edge of the mattress, she stared at her own reflection. The swollen eye, the torn lip, and the scars nobody could see, ones that lived behind her eyes and under her ribs. Why does he care? Men like Cole Maddox weren't built for saving anyone. They killed, they ran, they vanished down the next trail like smoke in the wind. They didn't stand up for barmaids forgotten by the world. And yet he had. A soft knock at the door made her jump. "It's me," came a low voice. "Cole." She cracked the door open, cautious. He stood in the dim hallway, hat in his hands, shoulders less like a legend and more like a tired man who'd spent too long on the trail. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I know." He didn't raise his voice. "If Garrett finds out." "He won't." Lily studied him up close. The years showed, lines at the corners of his eyes, weariness hanging from him like dust on his coat. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Cole didn't answer right away. The quiet stretched, then finally he spoke. "Because once there was somebody I loved, and when she needed help nobody stepped in, not a soul. I swore if I ever got the chance to do different I wouldn't ride past it." Lily swallowed hard, her throat tight. "Who was she?" His gaze darkened, drifting somewhere she couldn't see. "Someone I failed," he said softly. Before she could say anything else, he tipped his hat, turned, and disappeared back into the night. Morning came on slow boots. Lily woke to the sound of weighty footsteps on the wooden stairs, each one steady, deliberate. Her heart kicked hard in her chest. She reached under her pillow and curled her fingers around the small knife she kept there. The door swung open without so much as a knock. Sheriff Tom Harland filled the doorway, a tarnished badge catching a strip of sunlight. He was a big man, broad shoulders, soft belly that spoke of too much whiskey and not enough walking. His weathered face was creased not from worry but from years of pretending not to see what he saw. "Mornin', Lily," he said, touching the brim of his hat. "Sheriff," she answered. "Heard there was a bit of a stir down at the Rusty Nail last night." Lily stayed silent. Harlan stepped inside like he owned the room. "You know, Garrett's mighty riled up, says some saddle tramp thinks he's a hero." "He's not a drifter," Lily said quietly. "No," Harlan lifted a brow. "Then what would you call him?" "Dangerous." Harlan chuckled. "So is Garrett. Difference is Garrett owns this town. You follow what I'm tellin' you." Lily met his eyes, finding a sliver of courage she didn't know she had. "I follow that you work for him," she said. The sheriff's smile fell away. "Careful, girl, ice is thin under your boots." "Then let me fall through," she shot back. Harlan's hand slid to his holster, resting on the gun, not to draw, just to remind her it was there. "This gunfight goes down and Garrett walks away, you're gonna wish you kept that mouth shut." "And if Cole wins?" she asked. Harlan laughed, a brittle, joyless sound. "He won't." He turned and left, his boots thudding down the stairs. Lily sank back onto the bed, shaking. Outside, unseen gears of time dragged them closer to noon. Blackwater had never known a silence like the one that settled on it that day. By 11:30, the streets were bare, shutters barred, doors locked. Even the dogs had crawled under porches as if the dust itself had warned them to stay low. Word had raced through town. The Reaper versus Big Dog McGraw, high noon, Main Street. Folks peered from behind curtains and through cracks in shutters. Nobody wanted to miss it. Nobody wanted to be seen watching either. Cole Maddox stood alone in the center of Main Street. The sun hammered down on his black duster, heat pressing on his shoulders like extra weight. His face was set, calm, his right hand hung relaxed by his side, a breath away from his pistol. He stood in streets like this more times than he cared to count. But this time something was different. This time, someone was depending on him to live. At the far end of the street, Garrett McGraw stepped out of the Rusty Nail, his 3 men behind him. Hank, Darrell, and Mick stayed back. This was Garrett's moment, and he wanted everyone to see it. He rolled his shoulders, cracked his neck, and flashed a grin. "You sure you want this, Reaper?" he called. "I'm sure," Cole replied. "Last chance to turn around." "Same goes for you," Cole added. Garrett laughed. I kinda like you, Maddox, shame I have to put you in the ground. Cole didn't bother answering. The clock tower began to chime. Bong, Garrett's hand hovered over his gun. Bong, Cole's fingers twitched. Bong, the wind died, the town seemed to stop breathing. Bong! 2 shots shattered the quiet. Bang bang. Smoke curled from both guns. For a moment neither man moved, then Garrett staggered, his hand flew to his chest, thick dark blood seeped through his fingers, staining his shirt. He stared at the wound, disbelief carved across his face. Howie. Cole slid his pistol back into its holster. You were slow, he said. Garrett dropped to his knees, struggling for air. His men started forward, but Cole lifted a hand, palm out, a silent warning. Don't, he said softly but firmly. Hank Darrell and Mick halted. Garrett coughed, red flecks spattering his lips. You think this changes anything, he rasped. It changes everything, Cole replied. Garrett gave a choking, broken laugh. There's always gonna be someone bigger than you, Reaper. Maybe, Cole said, but not today. Garrett's eyes lost their focus, he pitched forward into the dirt, dead. Whispers rushed up and down the street, doors creaked open, faces appeared staring at the fallen man who had ruled them with fists, threats, and debt. Up in the saloon window, Lily pressed her palm to the glass. Tears slid down her cheeks, not for the man in the dust, but for something that had been buried inside her for a long time and was now stirring back to life. Hope. By late afternoon, the sun sagged low in the sky as Cole dragged Garrett's corpse to the undertaker. No one stepped in to help. No one said a word, they just watched as if waking from a bad dream they'd been stuck in too long. Hank Darrell and Mick were gone, they'd vanished the instant Garrett hit the ground. Cowards always knew when to melt into the landscape. Sheriff Harlan stood on the porch of his office, arms crossed tight over his chest, jaw clenched. He didn't speak. Didn't need to, his eyes did the talking. You just wrote your own death sentence. Cole met that stare, held it without flinching, then turned and walked on. By the time he reached the saloon again, the sky had turned the color of blood and gold mixed together. Lily waited outside. She washed the dried blood from her lip, tied her hair back clean, but the bruise on her face still stood out, a reminder of the life she'd survived, not escaped. You came back, she said softly. Told you I would, Cole answered. Most men don't keep their word. I'm not most men. A fragile smile tugged at her mouth, real this time. No, she agreed, you're not. She hesitated, then asked. What happens now? Cole looked out toward the edge of town where the land stretched empty and waiting. That depends, he said. On what? On whether you stay here or ride out with me. Her breath hitched. You're offering me a way out. I'm offering you a choice. Lily glanced back at the rusty nail, at the streets of Blackwater, at the life that had never been hers by choice. Then she turned her eyes to Cole. For the first time in years, she chose herself. I'll go, she said. Cole dipped his head. We leave at first light. They turned toward the doors. Before they could step inside, a voice slid out of the shadows. Hold on there, Reaper. A man stepped into the last smear of evening light. He was tall, wrapped in a coat the color of ashes. The brim of his hat hid much of his face, but his voice was smooth and cold, like a knife drawn slow across silk. Who are you supposed to be? Cole asked, his hand easing toward his gun. The man gave the barest hint of a smile. Name Silas Kane, he said. I'm here to collect on a debt. I don't owe you a thing, Cole replied. Not you, Silas said, tipping his head toward the undertaker. Him, Big Dog owed me money, a lot of it, and now that he's in the ground, someone else gets to settle the account. Cole's eyes hardened. That's not my burden. Oh, but it is, Silas tilted his head. You're the one who put him down, that makes you responsible far as I'm concerned. That's not how it works out here, Cole said. It works however I say it works, Silas answered calmly. Lily stepped forward. We don't have any money, she said. Silas's gaze slid to her. He studied her with a predator's focus. No, he said slowly, but you've got something else. Cole stepped between them. She's not on the table, he said flatly. Silas chuckled. Everything's for sale, Reaper, just takes the right price. Walk away, Cole told him. His voice stayed quiet, but all softness was gone. Do it now while you still can. Or what? Silas asked. You gonna gun me down in front of all these fine folks? He motioned with his chin toward the shadowed windows where faces lingered, watching. Killing Garrett, that was self-defense, Silas said. Putting me in the dirt, that's murder, and even you don't outrun a rope forever. Cole's jaw worked, but he said nothing. Silas smiled. I'll give you till tomorrow, he said. You find a way to pay me or I come back and take the girl instead. With that, he melted back into the darkness, leaving behind a silence heavier than any corpse. Later, inside the Rusty Nail, all the lamps were out. Only a single candle on the bar burned, its flame shivering in the still air. Cole and Lily sat in the dimness. What are we going to do? Lily asked, voice trembling. Cole watched the flame dance. I don't know yet, he admitted. Maybe I should just go with him. That put an end to it. No, Lily said sharply. He looked at her. I said no, she repeated, softer but steady. You're not going anywhere, not with him, not with anyone. Her eyes filled again. Then what? She whispered. What can we do? Cole fell quiet thinking, then he rose to his feet. We need leverage, he said. Leverage? Lily frowned. Something he wants more than money, more than me, like what? Cole's expression darkened. His past, he said. It took Cole 3 hours and a bottle of whiskey to pry the truth from an old bartender who'd once worked under Garrett McGraw. Silas Kane wasn't just some hired collector, he was a killer, a bounty hunter who'd stepped over the line even men like him weren't supposed to cross. 10 years back in Santa Fe, he'd shot a federal marshal in the back during a card game. No justice, no trial. No witnesses brave enough to stand up. Except one. The marshal's widow had written a letter, her testimony scratched out in her own hand, and hidden it in a lockbox at the back of the general store in Blackwater, hoping someday someone would find it. Cole did, just before midnight. The paper was brittle, the ink faded, but the words still carried weight. Silas Kane killed my husband. If you're reading this, make him pay. Cole folded the letter with care and slipped it inside his coat. Then he stepped back out into the sleeping town. Dawn arrived cold and pale. Silas Kane stood in the middle of the street, arms crossed, waiting as if he had all the time in the world. Cole approached at an easy pace, the letter tucked safe in his coat pocket. Well, Silas called, you got my money. No. Silas's eyes narrowed. Then I guess I'm taking the girl. Not today, Cole said. You testing me, Reaper? Silas asked. Cole stopped about 10 feet away. I've got something better than money. Yeah, Silas sneered, what's that? Cole drew the folded letter from his coat and held it up. Silas's face drained of color. Ring any bells? Cole asked. Silas stayed silent. This here's a letter from the widow of Marshal Tom Granger, Cole went on. Says you put a bullet in his back in Santa Fe, signed, dated, witnessed. Silas's hand inched toward his gun. Don't, Cole warned. You draw on me, this goes straight to the federal marshal in Silver City, and then you swing from a rope till your boots stop kicking. Silas's jaw tightened. You're bluffing, Maddox. The two men stared each other down. Then, slowly, Silas let his hand fall away from the gun. You think this is finished, he hissed. No, Cole said, but you're going to turn around now and you're not coming back. Silas glared at him, hatred burning bright in his eyes. Then he turned and walked away out of Blackwater, out toward the open desert. Gone. By mid-morning, Cole and Lily were packed and ready. They stood outside the saloon, morning sun warming their faces instead of cooking their fears. Where are we going? Lily asked. West, Cole said, somewhere quiet, somewhere that might still be safe. Places like that still exist, she asked. A small, genuine smile tugged at his mouth. We'll find out, he said. Lily looked back over her shoulder at Blackwater one last time, at the town that had caged her for years. Then she swung up behind Cole on the horse, wrapped her arms around his waist, and together they rode out of town and into the wide, waiting land. They'd been traveling about 3 hours when Cole heard it. Hoofbeats distant but closing. He drew his horse up, listening. What is it? Lily whispered. Trouble, he said. 3 riders crested the ridge behind them, Hank, Darrell, and Mick, Garrett's old crew. They hadn't run far after all. Cole, Lily's voice quivered. Hold on, he told her. He dug his heels in and sent the horse thundering down the trail. Behind them, the riders gave chase, guns flashing. Bang! A bullet hit close, kicking dust up near the stallion's hooves. Bang bang! Cole yanked the reins and veered into a narrow canyon where red walls closed in on both sides. Another shot whined past, closer than before. He drew his Colt, twisted in the saddle, and fired. Bang! Hank toppled from his horse, crashing hard into the dirt. Another shot. Bang! Darrell screamed, clutching at his shoulder as blood blossomed beneath his fingers. His horse veered off out of the fight. Only Mick kept coming, and he was quick. He fired twice. The first bullet scraped across Cole's arm, burning a line of pain. The second went wide. Cole answered with a single shot. Bang! Mick's horse reared in panic. Mick lost his seat and slammed into the ground, rolling until he came to a stop in a cloud of dust. Cole swung down from the saddle and walked toward him. Mick lay on his side, hand pressed to his ribs, blood soaking through his shirt. Why, Mick? Cole asked quietly. Garrett's dead, this should have been over. Mick coughed raggedly. He was family, he wheezed. Family doesn't beat women, Cole said. Mick spat blood. You don't understand loyalty. Cole crouched beside him. I understand it fine, he said. I just don't spend it on monsters. Mick's eyes lost focus, pupils glazing over. His body went slack. He was done. Cole straightened, holstered his gun. Lily ran to him, eyes wide with fear. Are you hurt? She asked. I'll manage, he said. She looked around at the bodies, at the canyon walls rising on both sides like grave markers. Is it really over? She whispered. Cole pulled her close. Yeah, he said, it's over. Somewhere far off, thunder grumbled across the sky, but the storm hanging over their lives had broken at last. 3 months later, Cole and Lily stood on the porch of a small cabin tucked into the mountains of Colorado. The air was crisp, the sky seemed to stretch forever. Lily had planted wildflowers along the doorway, small splashes of color pushing up from the earth, stubborn and hopeful. Cole split wood in the yard, the axe rising and falling in a smooth, practiced rhythm. They didn't speak much these days. They didn't need to. Some wounds healed with talk. Others needed only time, silence, and a place where no one screamed at night. As the sun drifted down, painting the sky in streaks of gold and red, Lily stepped beside him. Do you ever think about going back? She asked. Cole looked at her. Back to what? He said. The life you had, she replied. Gunfights, danger, people whispering your name. He set the axe aside. No, he said, that life behind me. And if it comes looking for you? She asked softly. A faint smile touched his lips. Then I'll be ready, he said, but right now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Lily leaned into him. Together they watched the sun disappear behind the mountains, leaving only quiet, stars, and the kind of peace neither of them had ever believed they'd find.